Welcome to the Duck Dive. We're all about getting to the heart of complex topics, and today it's Indian English literature. If you're looking for a shortcut to really understanding this rich literary world, you've come to the right place. We're using a fascinating resource. It's a compilation of those typical exam questions, the kind you find in the National Eligibility Test, the NET for English literature in India. It was put together by Dr. Jasvant Rathod, and it's meant for undergraduate students. So we're talking about the foundational stuff, the authors, and ideas that truly matter.
Exactly. It's not just about rattling off names and dates. We're digging deeper, extracting those golden nuggets of insight about the key players, the groundbreaking books, the themes that echo throughout the genre, and the awards that really mean something. Our mission is to give you a clear and memorable picture of this exciting literary landscape.
Okay, so right off the bat, our source points to a figure who's often called the father of Indian English literature, Mulk Raj Anand. Why him? What makes him so pivotal?
Well, think about it. He was one of the first, a true pioneer, to write novels directly in English. This was a huge deal at a time when Indian literature was mainly in regional languages. This choice of English opened up Indian stories to a whole new global audience.
And it wasn't just the language, right? His subject matter, the themes he tackled, were pretty bold for the time as well.
Oh, absolutely. In the context of early Indian English literature, he stands out for his unflinching focus on social issues. He brought the lives of the marginalized, those grappling with poverty and the deep inequalities of the caste system, right into the spotlight. His novels were a powerful tool for social commentary and change.
We're talking about novels like Untouchable and Coolie, right? Even the titles themselves pack a punch and hint at those potent themes he was tackling.
They do. We'll dive into Untouchable in more detail later, but just imagine experiencing the harsh reality of caste discrimination through the eyes of the protagonist, Baka. And Cooley similarly delves into the exploitation and struggles of a young boy trapped in a cycle of grueling labor. These novels were impactful because they directly confronted pressing social problems.
Jumping ahead a bit, it's always fascinating to see which authors gain international acclaim. Our source mentions Arundhati Roy's Booker Prize win in 1997 for The God of Small Things. That was a landmark moment, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The Booker Prize is a big deal, a truly prestigious international literary award. For Arundhati Roy to snag it with her debut novel, well, that was a massive achievement for Indian English literature. It brought her work, and the genre itself, to the attention of readers worldwide. A new, powerful voice had arrived.
And The God of Small Things itself, what kind of story did she tell that captivated so many?
It's a really intimate and deeply moving portrayal of family life and those tangled webs of relationships, all set against the backdrop of Kerala. Roy masterfully blends personal stories with broader social issues. Love, loss, the fragility of childhood innocence, and the weight of societal norms, it's all there, woven together in a way that resonated with readers across cultures.
And of course, no discussion of global recognition would be complete without Rabindranath Tagore. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature way back in 1913, a truly historic moment.
Indeed. It's crucial to remember he was the first Indian, the first Asian even, to receive this honor for literature. And it was for his collection of poems, Gitanjali. This win introduced the beauty and depth of Indian literary traditions to a global audience.
Patanjali, for our listener who might not be familiar, what defines the poetry in this collection?
Tagore's poems in Gitanjali are known for their profound spiritual and philosophical themes. And the language, it's so simple yet so evocative. He explores the relationship between humanity and the divine, the connection to nature, and the inherent beauty of life. His Nobel Prize wasn't just a personal triumph, it elevated Indian literature on a global stage.
Shifting our focus to recognition within India, our source mentions R.K. Narayan receiving the first Sahitya Akademi Award for English Literature in 1958. What's the significance of this award?
The Sahitya Akademi Award is a huge honor in India. It's given every year to writers for outstanding work in any of the 24 recognized major Indian languages. R.K. Narayan being the first recipient for English for his novel The Guide was a major moment. It showed the growing acceptance of English as a vital part of India's literary landscape, a validation of its significance as a mode of Indian literary expression.
Let's talk about The Guide itself. What's the story at its core?
The Guide tells the story of Raju. He starts as a humble tour guide at a railway station, but through a series of unexpected events, he ends up becoming a revered spiritual figure. It's a really compelling exploration of identity, transformation, and the often confusing nature of human motivation and belief.
Now let's delve deeper into some of those recurring themes. Earlier, we mentioned Mulk Raj Anand's Untouchable and its focus on caste discrimination. Could you unpack how he presents this theme and why it was so impactful?
What makes Untouchable so powerful is that it places you, the reader, directly into the shoes of the protagonist, Baka. He belongs to the lowest rung of the caste system. You experience the daily humiliations, the injustices he faces just because of his birth. Anand doesn't shy away from depicting the social exclusion, the denial of basic human rights, and the profound psychological impact of being labeled and treated as untouchable. It was groundbreaking for its time because it shone a light on this deep-rooted social evil and gave voice to those who had been silenced for far too long.
And that really underscores a broader point that our source makes, that Indian English literature often grapples with major social issues and the question of cultural identity.
Absolutely. In post-independence India, writers were deeply engaged with the changes and challenges the new nation faced. They used their writing to explore these persistent inequalities, caste, poverty, gender discrimination, and at the same time they were grappling with what it meant to be Indian in a post-colonial world, navigating that complex interplay between tradition and modernity.
Our source also brings up Vijay Tendulkar's play Silence. The court is in session. It was originally written in Marathi, but the English translation has also had a huge impact. What kind of social commentary does it offer?
Silence. The Court is in Session is a brilliant play. It uses the framework of a mock trial to dissect the hypocrisy that's so deeply embedded in society, especially when it comes to women. The play exposes those judgmental attitudes, the double standards women face, and really it shows just how fragile societal morality can be and how easily individuals can become targets of public condemnation and moral policing. And translating it into English allowed this powerful message to reach a much wider audience.
Turning our attention to individual struggles within these broader social contexts, our source mentions Shashi Deshpande's That Long Silence, focusing on the protagonist, Jaya. What's at the heart of her journey?
In That Long Silence, we're drawn into the inner world of Jaya, a middle-aged housewife who's forced to confront her past and her sense of self during a crisis in her marriage. It's a sensitive exploration of the feelings of confinement and voicelessness that so many women experience within patriarchal structures. And Jaya's story becomes this poignant quest for self-discovery, for the courage to speak her truth and break free from the expectations that society places upon her.
Let's shift gears now and think about how these stories come alive, the fictional worlds, and the different ways these authors tell their tales. R.K. Narayan's creation of Malgudi, it's so vivid it almost feels like a real place you could visit. What's the significance of this fictional town?
The beauty of Malgudi is in its realism, its relatable details. It's a product of Narayan's imagination, but it perfectly captures the essence of daily life in a small South Indian town. It acts as this microcosm of Indian society, a stage for exploring universal human experiences, joy, sorrow, triumph, failure, all within a specific cultural context. And that same setting recurs across many of his most loved novels, like Swami and Friends and The Guide.
Then you have an author like Salman Rushdie, whose Midnight's Children uses a very different, very innovative approach to storytelling. It famously blends historical events with elements of magic.
Midnight's Children is groundbreaking, not just for its content, but for its unique narrative style. It weaves together the personal stories of children born at the precise moment of India's independence in 1947, with those major political and social upheavals that shaped the new nation. And his use of magical realism, where these children have these extraordinary, almost magical powers, provides this imaginative lens through which we see the complexities and the very spirit of a newly independent India. So, with magical realism, you have these realistic narratives, but they're infused with fantastical or dreamlike elements to offer a different way of looking at reality.
Our source also highlights the work of Amitav Ghosh, noting his blend of anthropology, history, and fiction. It sounds like a richly layered approach.
It is. Ghosh is known for his meticulous research and his grand historical scope. Novels like The Glass Palace, which spans generations and connects characters across Burma, India, and Malaya through major historical events, and The Hungry Tide, which delves into the relationship between people and the environment in the Sundarbans, show his skill in weaving together history, culture, and individual human experiences into these compelling narratives.
It's interesting that even though it's perhaps less well-known, our source mentions Salman Rushdie's first novel, Grimace. It links the book to 15th century Spain and highlights its blend of science fiction and Indian myths. That offers a glimpse into his early creative interests, doesn't it?
It does. Grimace provides this fascinating insight into Rushdie's early experiments with different genres and his knack for blending seemingly disparate cultural and imaginative elements. That connection to 15th century Spain might seem a bit out there, but it hints at his lasting fascination with cross-cultural connections and his willingness to push the boundaries of storytelling right from the start of his career.
One incredibly significant historical event that's had a profound impact on Indian literature is the partition. Our source mentions Khushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan in this context.
Train to Pakistan is a truly powerful and moving novel. It tackles the immense human tragedy of the partition head-on. It tells the story of a seemingly peaceful village that gets caught in the violence and religious conflict. Singh captures the devastating impact of this event on ordinary people, highlighting those universal themes of love, loss, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable brutality and chaos.
And it's an important distinction our source makes, pointing out that Anita Desai's In Custody is not a partition novel. It actually focuses on the relationship between a teacher and a poet. It's helpful to keep those distinctions clear.
Definitely. The partition is a major recurring theme, but it's important to recognize the wide range of subjects and settings that these authors explore. In Custody dives into the more personal world of a Hindi literature professor and his efforts to preserve the legacy of a fading Urdu poet. It explores themes of cultural loss, artistic integrity, and those shifts in the literary landscape of post-colonial India.
And bridging historical events with contemporary experiences, we have Kiran Desai's The Inheritance of Loss, which also won the Booker Prize in 2006. What are the key themes she explores in that novel?
The Inheritance of Loss provides a more recent perspective on those complex ideas of identity and belonging in our increasingly globalized world. It beautifully interweaves the lives of characters in both India and the United States, exploring themes of displacement, migration, the lingering impact of colonialism, and the challenges of navigating cultural differences and personal losses in a world that's constantly changing.
Finally, let's touch on the spiritual and philosophical dimensions that often appear in Indian English literature. We've already mentioned the theme of devotion in Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali.
Yes, Gitanjali is all about that deep, personal, often mystical connection the poet feels with the divine. The poems express this profound sense of devotion, a longing for connection with something transcendent. He often uses vivid imagery from nature to convey these spiritual insights in a way that's both accessible and incredibly moving.
And Roger Rao's The Serpent and the Rope, which won the Sahitya Akademi Award in 1964, also seems to grapple with big philosophical questions. Our source mentions its connection to Vedanta philosophy. For those who aren't familiar, could you briefly explain what that is?
Of course. The Serpent and the Rope is a more explicitly philosophical novel. It follows the protagonist's intellectual and spiritual quest for truth and self-realization, all set against the backdrop of his complex marriage and his journeys between India and Europe. It delves into the principles of Vedanta philosophy, which is a school of Hindu philosophy that focuses on the nature of reality, the idea of the self, and its relationship to ultimate reality. The novel grapples with these fundamental questions about illusion, reality, and the very nature of existence from this philosophical standpoint.
So, taking a step back, we've covered a lot of ground here. You, our listener, should now have a good grasp of the fundamentals of Indian English literature. We've highlighted Mulk Raj Anand's importance as a foundational figure, the significance of awards like the Booker and Nobel Prizes in gaining international recognition, the constant engagement with social issues and the evolving questions of cultural identity, the creation of iconic fiction worlds like Malgudi, and the diverse and often groundbreaking narrative styles of authors like Rushdie and Ghosh.
We've also shown how pivotal historical events, like the partition, have profoundly shaped these literary narratives. And we've highlighted works that explore a wider spectrum of Indian experiences and identities. And of course, we touched upon the deep spiritual and philosophical inquiries that many of these authors weave into their writing.
Precisely. This deep dive, using these fascinating exam questions as a springboard, has given you a solid foundation in this dynamic and ever-evolving literary world. We've highlighted some of its most essential authors, their seminal works, and the themes that run through it all.
And now we have a question for you, our listener. Given all these social issues that have been explored by these writers across different generations, what pressing issues of our time do you think will capture the attention of future generations of Indian English authors? How might their unique perspectives and innovative storytelling techniques evolve in response to our ever-changing and increasingly complex world? It's definitely something to think about as you delve further into the rich and diverse works of these incredible writers.